tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you came from?
Well, basically, I was born in Concord, California in 1981 at Mount Diablo Hospital. I was just kind of a typical kid. I had an older brother. We'd play hide and go seek all around the neighborhood with a bunch of other kids. Played baseball. Was on the all-star team, 12, 13 years. Played baseball all the way up till I was 18, and just that's basically how my life was. It was carefree. I didn't really stress off anything, and life was good. So.
You're just a regular kid,
Yes.
and yet you dabbled in drugs.
Yeah, well,
What was it like the first time you used an illegal drug? Do you remember anything about that?
I think it was just really intense because I didn't purchase it. My brother had some, so I stole it from him and replaced it with something that wasn't what I took. It was marijuana at the time, and I took it, and it was like really intense because me and my friends were getting high, and we didn't really know what we were feeling. It was kind of just an odd feeling we were getting.
Why do you suppose you were willing to experiment with drugs?
Honestly, it was probably just because I wanted to just try everything. I felt that if I could try something, everybody says try something new. You never know what you like, and so I just would try it. I just was like, all right, well, my brother's doing it, so it must be okay. His friends are doing it, so it must be okay. I'd see it maybe on television or whatnot, and my friends talked about it, and it just seemed like the cool thing to do. All the in people at the time were doing it, so I wanted to join.
How many drugs did you try?
I've tried. Do you want me to name them off?
Sure.
Okay. I've done acid, KJ, shrooms, ecstasy, marijuana, crystal meth, crank, cocaine, and just alcohol. I
Wow.
consider that a drug too as well.
At your worst, how often were you using drugs?
Every day. That was my life. It was, in the beginning it wasn't. It was a social thing, but as it progressed, it was more like I just wanted it. I had to get it. I wake up, I'd be a grump, and the only way to fix it would be get that bag of cocaine or that bag of meth or that bag of whatever substance I wanted, or to get that bottle of booze. And that made me feel okay with myself. For some reason, I felt not good in my own skin, like there was something wrong with me.
You're still a young man. How many years were you using drugs regularly? What age were you then?
I started about 15 and a half, and I'm 2 years clean, so about 7.5, 8 years.
Wow. Wow.
And every year it got worse and worse and worse.
Back then, did you think you had a problem?
No, I didn't think I had a problem. The reason what made me think I didn't have a problem was when I didn't smoke and people would think something was wrong with me. So I really thought it was okay, like that was my normal. I was normal high, that was normal to me. To me, everyone around me was doing it. Everybody they knew was doing it, and those people that they knew was doing it. So it was just like just a thing to do. I had to fit in. That was my goal.
What was your behavior like if you weren't high?
I was grouchy, destructive. I would say things to my parents that would, even to this day I regret saying. I would call her names. I would tell her I wish she never had me, that it's all her fault and my life's this way. In all reality, it's all mine,
What were you like if you were using?
Very mellow, just very, very mellow, very laid back, kind of like how I used to be when I was a little kid, just happy-go-lucky. I felt no pain. If I had a girlfriend and she broke up with me, I didn't care. If I hurt my hand or broke an arm, I didn't care. That took all that away. That's what I used those for, was to get rid of any pain I felt.
So was your mom fooled by you, or did she think you were using drugs but not know what to do?
I thought she was fooled at first, but I got so careless with it that, in my bedroom I had marijuana bongs and pipes and all displayed like they were fine china in in a dining room, and I'd come home smelling of marijuana, and I'd stay up real late. I'm sure she knew, but being a mom, not knowing what to do about it, she just kind of probably prayed or just sat and said, I hope one day he gets it, because she couldn't help me. She told me I would have a problem, or she might mention it, or maybe be concerned, like, are you okay? And I just brush her off and snap at her, to the point I did it so much that she didn't want to ask me what was wrong because she was too scared that I would curse her out or say something negative to her, you know.
So you're a graduate of drug court,
Yes.
and you credit that program for helping you.
Yes.
Had you tried other treatment programs before getting in trouble with the law?
I've tried, I've tried two, probably two. Yeah, I think two. I did SRC. Well, I tried SRC 3 times.
That's Stanislaus?
Yes, Stanislaus Recovery Center. The first time I went in, I wasn't even there a day. And then I wrote an apology letter, because at that time I wanted to quit, but there was still part of me that wasn't done. You know, so I went away for a week, I was using, and then I came back in. And after apology letter, they usually make you wait 2 weeks, but they let me in because I apologized and told them I'm sorry for walking out and getting all mad and upset. And they let me back in, and basically I graduated in 24 days. When I graduated, everybody said I'd never use again. They had confidence in me, and within a month I was using again. And then I went on to run some more and went back to SRC, and it just, every time I tried doing that, it didn't work, you know, and I was on Prop 36, and that didn't.
You got in trouble with the law?
Yes.
And then you had to do another program?
Yes.
What kind of trouble did you get in?
Basically, I just got in, I was driving without a license off of McHenry, and I got pulled over around 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Officers pulled me out of the car and asked me some questions, this and that, and I was on probation, so they searched my car. I had no license, so I was, you know, basically probably already going to jail. They searched my car, asked if I had anything. I told them, oh, there's a little marijuana pipe, you know, that's it. And they ended up finding out that I had a crystal meth pipe with some crystal meth in a bag. And they asked me what it was, and I told them this big story like it was my friend's. He left it, and I just, you know, I thought I was really slick, like they were going to believe me, you know. And basically they just put me in the car, and I complained and whined and said, oh, just let me go, you know, I was on my way home, I'm not causing any problems. And that was when I got that charge to get on Prop 36.
So you went into the Proposition 36 program, and that put you in a treatment program, or was supposed to?
It was, at first it wasn't, but I messed up that she suggested that I go to SRC, and so
You initially were supposed to go to outpatient counseling?
Yeah, outpatient counseling. It wasn't working, so.
And that wasn't it?
Yeah, so basically, since I failed that, they said I'd recommend him for inpatient treatment, because
And you did SRC?
I did SRC.
Was that your second time?
That was, basically it was my first time, but it was so quick. I went in and I went out, and then I went in again. And then after I graduated, I stopped. You know, I just started hanging around old people and places and things. I did everything that they told me not to do, I did it.
You went back to your old
I went back to my old friends. I had no other friends. I didn't know what life was like sober.
And you had another problem with the law, right?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, basically, because I was running from Prop 36, you know, the whole time I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do. Warrants were sent out for me, and I got caught in San Jose for having a warrant, and I was brought into jail and basically taken from Santa Clara County to Elmwood, and then taken all the way on my last day. I thought I was getting released. They had me all dressed out, and they took me all the way back to Modesto, to downtown, and then I put in a paper to get shipped to the Honor Farm, and because I heard it was better out there, it was easier, and so I got shipped out to the Honor Farm, and basically called my mom and pleaded and begged her to help me get a lawyer or something so I can get out of here, and which she did, and my lawyer got me out. And
This time you got some pretty good advice from your defense attorney.
yes,
Who was he, and what did he tell you to do?
Is it George? Richard Herman. I always want to say George. I do not know why. But it was Richard Herman, and basically he came at me a different way. I've had other lawyers, and the way he came at me was just so like, it was just a perfect way. It wasn't threatening, but it was more, this is how it's going to be. And every time I try to speak, he'd tell me, shut up, I don't want to hear what you have to say. He's all, they're ready to just tie you to a tree and set you on fire. They don't even care no more. You know, I had to talk to the judge, I had to talk to the DA, and I had to ask them if they give you one more chance. They said, you have to go to Honor Farm, you have to get a men recovery, you have to pass that, then you have to do a year in drug court, and you have to pass that. He told me if I did all that, I would not have to pay him a dime. And I was just so amazed by that. And I still do not know why, really, to this day, he said that. Maybe it was an incentive. I don't know.
So you did Men in Recovery, that's
Yes.
a treatment program in the jail.
Yes, it is.
And that convinced the officials that you would be a good candidate for drug court.
Yes. I almost didn't get into drug court, to Men in Recovery, basically because they gave me good time. And anybody that's in jail understands that when you serve some time and you go back in, they take time off your sentence for good time that you've already served. And they gave me a month. So I got a letter back from the guy that was in charge of the Men in Recovery saying I couldn't go. I went to jail and got my time put back on so I could go through this program. Because
at that point, why were you convinced that you really needed help?
I just was convinced because I was getting high one day before I turned myself in. And I just was thinking, why is my life like this? Why is my truck gone? Why do I not have anything? And as I was sitting there twirling a crystal meth pipe in front of my face, something inside of me said, that's why. And I kind of was stunned, and it just said, that's why. And then after that, I continued to use, but it triggered something in my mind that said, okay, I have a chance to go to jail and get clean. I told a lot of my friends, they see me, they were like, why are you happy to go to jail? I said, because I am not coming out the same. I was like, when I come out, I am not doing this stuff anymore.
Can you tell folks a little bit about the drug court program? What does it require of you to pass, to graduate?
Well, it requires that you go to, basically, first phase, you go to 3 classes a week. I think it's Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You have to go to 3 meetings or more a week. They can't be on the same day. You have to drug test once or twice a week. If you have fines or any fees that you have to pay, they try to get on you to pay that. And they get on you if, say I had a lot of fees that I owed, like restitutions I owed. If they saw me come in with all these new outfits and new gold chains or whatever, they would get upset at me because I have other obligations. What they tried to do for me was get me to be responsible and basically fix what I messed up. In the process, they taught me about my disease. They taught me about how not just me, it wasn't just me. I was in a men's group, so I was in there with a bunch of other men. And for men that are using and drinking and whatnot, it's really hard to be emotional towards another man, to watch another man cry because he's upset because he can't see his kids. Most men would laugh at you. Oh, he's a wuss, he cries, he's weak, but that was what it taught us. It taught us that it's all right, if you have emotions, to let it out in that way instead of being violent, because that's how I personally let my emotions out, was I had to be violent. I had to destroy something when I was mad. All I really wanted to do was cry.
Were you surprised that the government was willing to make such a big investment in people who had broken the law?
Yeah, the way that drug court helped so many people out, when I watched them help people get their kids and get custody and work with them, and our probation officer, Neil, and Bev, that was in charge of our group, I couldn't believe that they were doing that. It just made me feel good. It made me feel like if something went wrong, I could call them. And what the thing was is people would graduate and they'd still help them. It was like these people really wanted us. And I noticed that a lot of people that work for the county and even police officers were for drug court because they've actually seen what it did. They've seen that it changed, and they really have respect for it. But the thing is me being a member of drug court, I have to be respectful to those other areas, the people that work for the county and police officers. I can't just be this way in drug court and then when I get out, be a total obnoxious, idiot. They're trying to teach me how to be me, they're helping me find myself, and I noticed a lot of people were in support of it, and it still kind of amazes me, There's people that when I would go to 12-step program meetings, if you had a green card that drug court specifically gives you, it's a certain card. If you were to come in late, there's certain people that won't sign it because they know the rules of drug court and they still support it, because it saved their life or maybe a friend of theirs, so.
What's the best thing about being sober?
Right when you said that, I thought about what this one older gentleman that has a little more time than me says. He says, I get to wake up in the morning and I get to go to sleep at night, not come to and not pass out. So, and it's also good to know when I go out and I wake up, I can remember the night before instead of having someone tell me what I did. Because there are many nights, I was a blackout drinker and user, There was many nights that I'd do stuff and I don't remember what I did. And I'd wake up and my friends would tell me stories that were so off the wall, and I really did it, but I just couldn't believe them. So I mean that, and also the fact that, me being a new dad, my child doesn't have to see me high or drunk. My fiance that I'm with has never seen me high or drunk, and my grandfather, my mom, all my family my nieces, they get their uncle back. My brother gets his brother back. My mom gets her son back, and my grandfather and grandparents get their grandson back, to the way that they remember me. Because when I was using and drinking, I didn't want anything to do with them, because I couldn't face them seeing me how I looked.
What do you need to do to stay sober in the future?
Well, I need to continue to work with others that are in programs, 12-step programs. I have a sponsor that helps me work these 12-step programs and teaches me how to do them. I have to work with him. I have to work steps. I have to go to meetings regularly. I have to have a balanced schedule. I'm going to school. I have my family. I have work, and then I have all, going to meetings. I have to balance that out. If I'm doing one more than the other, that can risk me going out. If I stop going to meetings and think my life's okay, maybe it was just a fluke, then I'll go out. Because basically, the longer I stay clean, the stronger my disease inside of my head is getting. It's patient, and it'll wait. And it'll wait for that one moment for something bad to happen, like a loved one to pass away, to tell me this is when you want to do it. I know an answer for you to get well, and that is to go get high. And that's what it's waiting to tell me. And I basically have to wake up every day and just realize that I'm powerless, I'm a drunk, I'm an addict, and if I don't think that and don't believe that, then I'll be that again.
Why are you willing to speak so frankly about the dark moments of your life?
Basically, because I notice some people, when they get really clean for a while, that they tend to forget where they came from, and I never want to forget where I came from. It's made me who I am. I should be a little farther along in life, but this is what should have happened to me. I needed all that to happen to be who I am now, and I'm stronger. But basically, it's just the fact that, what was the question again? I'm so sorry. I went off base. I went off base. My mind stopped. That's one of those things that's a problem. That's an effective drugs and alcohol right there. I like to call them brain farts.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that happens a lot. But
Why speak so frankly about this?
Just because other people have done it for me. I mean, there's people that have worse stories than me and have told me things that I'm like, are you seriously telling this to a group, of alcoholics or drug addicts, and not worried about someone saying anything, And when they say those things, I'm like, I know their story's worse than mine, but the fact that they're willing to tell me to help me, then I have to be willing to do that. My sponsor is very, very intense on me and his other sponsees to being in service, and service is, giving back what was so freely given to me. I don't have to pay $1 to get any of these 12-step programs. I can just walk in, tell them I'm an alcoholic or an addict, and they're willing to help me. And that's just amazing. So, I mean, for that, I can never pay back any 12-step program. They've given me so much, so the only way I can try or even make an effort is to basically go to people, talk to you about my life and my story. It may not be worse than most people's, but, I mean, to me, it was just as bad. To me, it was bad. So I have no problem. There's no fear. If people want to judge me because I've done drugs and alcohol, that's their problem. I don't lose any sleep over it. I can go to bed tonight and I'll go to sleep comfortably and wake up in the morning and not feel any less about myself. I'm just trying to help someone that may need help. That's why I speak so openly about stuff.
You've sampled a wide array of drugs. Is methamphetamine different than others?
To me, it was. Just because it was so easy to get out in Modesto, for one. It would last longer than the high of marijuana. I wouldn't black out like I would drinking. My nose wouldn't get clogged like with cocaine, because I could smoke crystal, I could snort it, and it wouldn't get clogged like with cocaine. Acid and shrooms are just, those, at the time when I started doing this, those just scare me, because they really mess with you pretty bad. And But all I know is that with crystal, it was like, it wasn't my drug of choice. I only was doing it because that's all I could get.
It was so available in
Yeah,
Modesto.
it was so available. I mean, basically, it turned into my drug of choice. I like had to have it. It kept me up. It made me do something. If I needed money and I had to work, I couldn't go smoke a joint. I would fall asleep. You know, I had no energy. But when I did crystal, it gave me all these amounts of energy, you know, and all these ambitions. Like, marijuana took my ambitions away, and crystal meth gave them back. But the problem was I didn't do nothing with them. I had all these thoughts like I could become this big famous star and make tons and tons of money with this one idea. But if I was to remember what that idea was right now, I would probably not stop laughing because it would be so idiotic and so ridiculous. You know, it'd be illogical. And you know, basically,
Did you stay up for days at a time?
days at a time. I have friends that stayed up weeks.
Wow.
And I still am like, how could you stay up that long? I had to fall asleep. The thing with me, though, is I would have stayed up that long. It's my body has, I don't know if our body has some kind of safety mechanism on it that when we stay up too long, it just knocks us out. Because there were times where I was getting high, and then I wake up 45 minutes later. And I didn't want to fall asleep. I just woke up, and I still have the pipe in my hand and the bag right in front of me, and I'd kind of be panicked, like, what happened, what happened? Oh, it was just my body shut me down because I was up so long, you know, and that's how it
Worry
was.
that you will have long-term physical effects from doing so many drugs?
Yeah, I already have effects. Sometimes from acid, I see trails. When I move my hand like this, I see a trail. You know, I mean, it's not really that effective. I lucked out. A lot of people that have done it less than me have lost all their teeth. They have scars. That they could have done other things. Their lungs. I mean, for me, I really lucked out. I do think when I get a little older, you know, I'm sure I shed a couple years, 5, 10 years off my life. You know, and I don't think about that. It doesn't bother me. It is what it is now. All I know is if I stay clean and sober, that'll better my chances of living longer. You know, and all that stuff that was doing for me was taking my life away. You know, it was making me powerless over anything. When I thought I had control, I didn't. It was the drug, it was the alcohol that had control over my life. Because that's all I wanted.
What's your advice to others who struggle with addictions?
To me, it'd be something they probably already heard is you got to change who you hang around. You got to change what you do, where you do it. You know, you have to change your whole lifestyle. You have to be willing to just forfeit everything, even if it's loved ones. I have a friend that is almost coming on to a year, and he has family members that use and drink, and he does not go around them. You know, and it's hard. I mean, it's really hard, especially if you've grown up and that's all you know, and that's all the people you know. It is really hard to meet new people, but that's why they have 12-step programs. You go and you meet people. I mean, when I went to a 12-step program, I didn't want to meet no one, but people met me. You know, I met one guy, and he introduced me to anybody he'd meet, he'd introduce me every time, you know, and now I go into these meetings, and I know people. I go to Berkeley, I know people, you know, and we do a lot of things. Basically, these 12-step programs would be what I would suggest doing. Just give it some time. You got to want it. If they're not done, they're not done, you know. But if they really want to stop and they want to find a way, I mean, that's the only thing I could suggest. Maybe going to the Salvation Army, going to SRC, other programs like Nirvana or whatever other programs that are in treatment programs, our out treatment programs, our 12-step programs. Those all help. I mean, some didn't help me. I needed a more vigorous, more in-depth, you got to do this 3-4 days a week, because to me, freedom, just a week of freedom it wouldn't cut it. You know, so I could only speak to someone that really is like intensified in doing drugs and alcohol, you know, that they have to go to like an in-house program, or like Salvation Army, or drug court program, or just constantly go to meetings and put your hand out there. Just say, like if I was new, I'd go, hi, my name's Kevin, I'm an alcoholic, addict. I just wanted to say hi. I'm new, I don't know nothing. And if someone would like to talk to me, I need someone to talk to. You just got to reach out, and that's a big fear a lot of people have. You know, I've heard people share in meetings that they don't know what to say, but they need help, and that's the only reason why they said, I'm so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic. You know, so I mean, you got to want it. I mean, if they want it, they can do it. I did it. I know plenty of people that were worse off than me, and they're doing it right now. You know, so.
What do you hope to be 10 years from now?
What do I hope to be? Well, I never really thought that far. I'm not really supposed to think that far ahead.
Oh, whoops.
No, don't worry about it. But to be honest, 10 years from now, you know, I'd still like to be just a clean and sober person. I'd like to have 12 years instead of when I'm coming on to 2. I'd like to be married, of course, which I want to do soon. I just want to be in school still. I want to be working on maybe a degree or something. I want to be working for like a state ag department or something. I really like agriculture. Basically, I want to be doing something, whatever it is, it's got to be positive. I do not want to do what I used to do because I don't think there's another chance for me. I may be 25 years old, but if I go back out, I don't think. I've been to jails and I've been to institutions. The only place left is death. And I've been to 2 out of 3. I do not want to go to the 3rd one, not now. So my life's real good, and I know tomorrow I just want to be clean and sober. I know that for sure. I know today I ain't drinking, just being here, you know. So, but that's basically when I look at the future, I try not to look too far ahead because really nothing ever goes to plan. That's what I found out.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
For talking to us.